Anthony Edwards just went nuclear. A career-high 53 points, lights-out shooting, and highlight reel moments. Yet, the Timberwolves still couldn't get the job done. So, what's really going on with this team? It was a night to remember for Anthony Edwards, who put on an absolute scoring clinic with a jaw-dropping 53 points against the Detroit Pistons. But despite his historic performance, the Timberwolves couldn't break free from their losing streak. What's behind this rough patch from Minnesota? For the Minnesota Timberwolves, that was indeed a roller coaster of a night, not the type of enjoyment. Anthony Edwards made it rather plain he was tired of being double-teamed all season following their difficult loss to the Boston Celtics. The man is a scorer, so he wants more than just pass the ball as in a game of hot potato. He made sure to remind everyone of that with an amazing Saturday night performance. Edwards went totally nuclear, sinking a career-high 53 points against the Detroit Pistons at Little Caesars Arena. He was brilliant, striking shot after shot as though he was in a personal three-point contest. Even with his solitary heroics, though, the rest of the Wolves simply couldn't keep up. The offense dropped ice cold during pivotal stretches. The defense? Let's just say that the Pistons and Cade Cunningham had themselves a feast. With an 11-0 outburst that left the Wolves staggered, the Pistons came out blazing, opening the second quarter. With just 15 points in the whole frame and unable to purchase a bucket, Minnesota got this. Edwards scored 13 of those alone. You heard that right. The remainder of the team put together a shocking 2 points in the quarter. Yikes. Josh Minot's illness had caused the Wolves to be shorthanded already. He had been rotating consistently lately, hence his absence was obvious. With just 8 players active, head coach Chris Finch maintained a tight rotation, and while Edwards sought to single-handedly will the squad back, basketball sadly is not a solitary sport. With a clutch three-pointer, his 10th of the night, Edwards tied his previous career high of 51 points by tying the record for most threes at Little Caesars Arena by the time the fourth quarter started. From the field, he completed the game shooting 16 of 31 with a blazing 10 of 15 from deep. He also put 2 assists and 6 rebounds on top of it. It was not entirely flawless, though. In a game where every possession counted, Edwards also made 6 turnovers, a difficult pill to chew on. The Wolves just couldn't get out of the hole, even with an explosive third quarter where they finally came alive for 38 points, including 18 from Edwards alone. Detroit answered with a 41-point quarter of their own. Every time Edwards drained a three, Cunningham appeared to have a corresponding response. Minnesota's defense suffered all night as the Pistons star ended with a monster 40 points, 9 assists, and 6 rebounds. Turning now to defense, let's discuss the Wolves' difficulties tracking Malik Beasley. With 6 three-pointers totaling up 23 points, the former Wolf-turned-adversary for the night came off the bench and scorched his old club. Adding 16, Tobias Harris rounded out Detroit's well-balanced assault. Outscoring Minnesota 58-34 inside, the Pistons dominated the glass with a 47-33 rebounding lead and totally ruled the paint. The Wolves, who dropped their third consecutive game and now sit at 17-17, had a difficult night all around. Edwards' particular genius kept it respectable, but basketball is a team game, and this one was a sobering reminder that even superheroes depend on a strong supporting cast. If there is a silver lining, Edwards illustrated once more the reason he is among the league's most outstanding young players. But more people will be needed for the Wolves to pull out from this downturn. So what's wrong with the Wolves? Initially, though, it's a player. Once a vital component of the Timberwolves equation, Mike Conley seems to be having trouble this season. And by rough patch, we mean he feels as though he's basketball playing with oven mitts on. He's averaging just 8 points and 4.4 assists per game across 30 games, and his field goal percentage is poor, just 35%. From last season's 11.4 points and 5.9 assists, on a far better 46% shooting, that is a sharp decline. Worse, Conley missed all 4 of his shot attempts and was held scoreless in 21 minutes in the Wolves' recent loss to the Pistons. The club was outscored by 14 during his on-court presence as well, oddly. What then specifically is happening in this regard? Why suddenly did a point guard who was once dependable turn into a liability? Conley's problems for the Timberwolves go beyond a mere shooting slump. They directly harm the team's prospects of winning games. He has only averaged 6.1 points over the past 11 games, shooting a poor 31.9%. And when a player who is mostly in charge of scoring and handling the ball fails to accomplish either of those tasks, the knock-on consequences on the team's performance become really evident. Which is the main issue? Conley has opened a void on the offensive side of the ball. His 36% from beyond the arc is rather lower than his 39% career average. Still, his three-point shooting has not totally dropped since he is now scoring 36%. On the other hand, his conflicts inside the arc are really evident. With just 41% of his shots, 18 for 44, he has the lowest record on the club for connecting on shots in the paint. He converted 52% of those identical looks in the previous season. Middle game, in terms of games, it is practically non-existent. Once more, the lowest percentage on the club for players who have tried at least 5 shots. This season, he has a frighteningly low percentage of 1 for 14 on mid-range efforts. Conley's floater was thought of as his signature move last, when not anymore. Not only are these scoring problems personal, but they also directly contribute to the Wolves' recent performance drop. Defenses can afford to focus all of their attention on your top player in cases where your starting point guard is unable to score regularly or create offensive flow. Furthermore, this exactly is what is happening. Anthony Edwards deals with aggressive double teams, and defenders challenge Conley to pay for their actions during every game. He has not thus far. More thorough research reveals several possible causes for Conley's sudden decline. He has been bothered by his wrist issue for some time and knows it will finally call for surgical intervention. That explains his shooting problems, especially in relation to finishing around the court rim. To add insult to damage, this season his performance has changed significantly. Julius Randle usually serves as a secondary initiator behind Edwards and has taken on a more important position concerning the ball handling. Conley has been pushed into a position that is less on the ball, which does not play to his capacity as a facilitator. Conley was a more major contributor to the offense during the last season and a consistent playmaker. Right now, he is usually a spectator looking for opportunities to catch and shoot, not his main source of money. To exacerbate the situation, age is also a variable. Conley, now in his 18th NBA season, is 37 years old. One could reasonably expect Father Time to be catching up with him at last. The rapid drop in output makes it less like a slump and more like a player struggling against the unavoidable decrease in physical capabilities. Particularly with regard to pulling out close games, the fact that the Wolves have been left susceptible by this degradation raises cause for concern. Minnesota finds it increasingly challenging to keep up with high-scoring opponents without offensive punch. This was shown in the loss to the Pistons, since Cade Cunningham not only effectively helped the game, but also completely outshined Conley with 40 points. On the defensive side of the ball, nothing really has changed. Conley, the once dependable perimeter defender, has lost one step in performance. Though his instincts have not changed, his ability to get ahead of guards faster than him has drastically dropped. Former Minnesota Timberwolves member Malik Beasley showed the challenges the team has in controlling the backcourts of rival teams by scoring 23 points without coming off the bench during the same loss. The Wolves have become more open to attack on both sides of the court without the usual defensive influence Conley brings to provide. Conley is desperately needed by the Timberwolves to restore his former degree of performance, or at least to start a respectable contribution. Their 3-game losing run can help to somewhat explain the problems he has been experiencing. Lack of consistent backcourt scoring has caused Minnesota to rely excessively on Edwards to manage the offensive load. Over time, the offense of the Wolves and the defenses of the other teams have become more predictable. Should Conley fail to break out from this rut, the Wolves will suffer, especially when facing clubs with aggressive guard play. Specifically, what is the response? Chris Finch seems to be reluctant to change the starting lineup significantly for now. Although the Wolves' backcourt choices will be limited until the rookie guard Rob Dillingham recovers from his injury, they will be limited until then. Although Conley has been a vital veteran for this club in the past, it is clear that they cannot keep waiting for him to sort things out as they keep losing. What is the uncomfortable reality? Minnesota's hopes of making the playoffs depend much on Conley's ability to turn things around. Should this not happen, the Wolves could have to think about changing their roster or maybe evaluating trade options as the season runs on. Although this is hardly the ending anyone had hoped for such a seasoned veteran, results count more in the competitive realm of professional basketball than reputation. Edwards gave us a performance for the ages, but the Timberwolves' issues run deeper than one superstar's heroics. Can they turn things around before the season slips away? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What adjustments do you think the Wolves need to make? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more NBA breakdowns, game highlights, and updates.